Okay, y'all know how we do. Let's get it. Let's go. Wait, did it adjust? It adjusted. All right. So we about to do Don Lennon. This is an old interview, but I wanted to do it. Don Lennon, Sheriff Clark, spar over police shooting. I don't know how that far this is gonna go. I wanted to do this because I don't know. Somebody just told me to look at Sheriff Clark. If I don't like Cooney blacks, Sheriff Clark is definitely somebody I should be looking at. So let's see. All right. I'll give y'all a brief on this one.
Officers dead, 3 wounded in Baton Rouge. A really tough day for Baton Rouge and for the country, really. Here to talk about how to keep our police safe is Sheriff David Clark of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. He is going to be speaking at the Republican convention tomorrow night. Sheriff, thank you very much for that horrific day. I spoke to the heads of the sheriff department, the police department, and the state police down there, and they told us how their hearts were reeling. Their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
Officers should not be unalived. Neither should blacks. It doesn't make anything any better on both ends when this is happening. There needs to be people who understand that both is wrong. Both is wrong. However, though, there has to have to be people that aren't just justified on one side to say only black people and who cares about the police. And there also need to be people, maybe I'm saying the exact same thing I just said, but I'm going to say it again in a different way, right? We need to have blacks that understand that the police actually do matter. We need to have police officers that understand that blacks actually do matter. We need to come together and talk and understand each other, because there's a lot of police going out into communities that they don't understand and policing communities that understand and causing a mischief. This is all a spiral effect from that. So let's go from there.
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
Why would he say it if you don't believe it?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them.
Any protests over the deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
No protests.
I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
No.
What are you asking?
He asked
It's a
you.
pretty simple question.
Simple
I
question.
asked you what's your message to the people. Their message is one of peace. What is your message?
My message has been clear from day one 2 years ago.
Okay.
This anti-cop sentiment from this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter has fueled this rage.
I see why y'all want me to watch this. This hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter. The ideology is just Black Lives Matter. Like, you can't add anything onto that. It's just we matter. We matter too. Here, you know what? I'll be better for white people. Okay, we matter too. That's what they're trying to say. You guys definitely matter. Humans have intrinsic value, but we matter too. That's the only ideology that was supposed to come out of it. Everything else that was attached to it has nothing to do with the forefront of why it stood. Even the Marxism that came into it later, the LGBTQ community, I don't care any of that. None of that has to do with the forefront that Black Lives Matter. If we can clear that, we can go across all boards. That means black women matter, LGBTQ members matter, trans people matter, men matter. All of us matter. Like, that's all it was talking about. Here. And for white people, too. That means you matter. That's all he's trying to say. Like, this Sheriff Clark dude already got me on. Woo!
Against the American police officer. I predicted this 2 years ago. So what I want to know.
Okay, Sheriff.
Do I want to
With
know?
all due respect, do you know that this was because of that?
Yes, I do.
As a law enforcement officer?
I've been watching this for 2 years. I predicted this. This
this.
anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country has turned out some hateful things inside of people that are now playing themselves out on the American police officer. I want to know, with all of the black-on-black violence in the United States of America, by the way, when the tragedies happened in Louisiana and Minnesota, you know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on that?
Black officer who...
You know about it, so obviously there was some reporting on it. I hate when people say that. Like, was there reporting on the crimes in Chicago? You know about it, so obviously there's reporting on it. How do you know about it?
was killed today. But
Was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please, let's just keep the
Don Lennon's scared. Sheriff, please. Let's just. No, let him talk, Don. Let's have this argument.
down here. So I understand, and listen. I'm
looking at 3 dead cops this week,
Sheriff,
and I'm looking at 5 last year. You trying to tell me to keep it down?
Just please, Fuel, just please. We can keep it civil. So, because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish you had that message of civility
have a conversation
toward this
with you.
Hateful ideology, these purveyors of hate.
What my message is.
That's
what I
what
want
they
to say
do.
to you is,
These people
let me
preach
are you going to get a word in?
and virtue
We'll be right
in
back.
the name
We're
of
going to go to break,
hate.
and we'll be right back. All I want to do is have a conversation. I can't have a conversation with you if we're both talking at the same time. What it sounds like to me is that you're accusing me of violence and supporting something, a narrative that I'm not necessarily in support of. And if that's what you're accusing me of violence, then you can leave. That's not true. I don't support violence of any type against police officers, against anyone. So if you're accusing me of that, then you're welcome to leave. But if you want to have a conversation, I am more than willing to welcome a conversation with you. I don't disagree with you about there's a narrative across the country that could be harming police officers. But we don't know right now, as someone who's in law enforcement, if that was the actual cause of it. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Do we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know?
Yes, we do know that. We know that the system was predicated upon racism. The whole idea of police were slave catchers. Yes, the system itself is that way. Don't you, anybody who's going to jump in the comments and get mad at me for saying this, you don't find it odd in America that the same people that came over here in chains are still in chains? You don't find that odd, like that question, or how a kid could be playing with a toy gun in a parking lot, a toy gun in a playground area, and a police officer pull up and start dumping, or why the conversation about police are treating us. You want to know what was funny? I'm going to say this real quick. I don't know if you guys know about what happened with Rodney King, but it was so much more than just the Rodney King riot that happened, right? There was a little girl, like most people don't hear about, right? Look up the story. Look up the story. There was a little girl who was in a store who had the money to pay for something, and she was unalived by a store clerk on her, right? I can't remember her name, and it's driving me right now. I'm pissed I can't remember her name, but research the story because it happened. And she was unalived in the store. And then it got all the way to a jury where the jury said that, like basically they was guilty, like guilty of whatever happened. And the judge said, no, let the man go. Basically let the store clerk go for what happened because they don't see black people as human. That's the system that we're working in. That's the system that we work with. There are more blacks arrested for crimes that they did not commit and exonerated more often than whites. That's the system we live in. You're more likely to be profiled. Of course, we think that, man. The thing is, for y'all to show us that it's not. Instead of you coming up here mad. Well, I get why he's mad because there's unalived officers, but at the same time, like, listen. Maybe this is a time for listening. At that time, 8 years ago, it's still the same though. We still have the same kind of arguments, but it's time for listening. Yeah, like listen if you want to come to a solution. Like we can't all just, I don't know.
All this.
Navon's business travel platform? It completely ruined my life. You see, I've been in the great...
Damn commercials.
Go on.
I asked a question.
Do I know American general law enforcement are racist? I don't think anyone is accusing. If you're insinuating that people are accusing or saying that law enforcement across this country as a whole are racist, then your assumption is wrong.
First of all, this whole...
They are. It's not them. It's not personally them. It's the system. They're upholding the system. And the system is predicated on racism. Nobody's wrong about that. That's the race has been the underlying factor in this country since the dawn of this country, since Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. He didn't land in America, but all those settlers that came in brought black people in. And from 1619, the first black person that came over here as a slave. Race has been the underlying factor in this country. We've had to amend the Constitution an extensive amount of times just because of the human right violations that happen when it comes specifically to race, man. Oh my God, I'm talking today, man. Get in the comments and get in my butt.
Anti-police rhetoric is based on a lie. There is no data, and you know this. There is no data, there is no research that proves any of that nonsense. None. Even...
You have to be more specific about what data and what nonsense you're talking about.
How about the data of redlining? the consistent redlining and how like companies in I think this is 2022 this happened, where companies had to pay a settlement with blacks because they were giving blacks lesser loans than other people when it came to housing and when it came to all kind of things. Like banks were literally being charged with this. Now of today, like it's still happening. There's data on that. There's data on how black women are treated when it comes to hospitals. There's data on how black men are treated when it comes to the system, period. Why are we acting as if this doesn't exist?
That law enforcement officers treat black males different than white males in policing in these urban
There
centers.
is data that's
There's not data.
There is.
no. The president spoke about it. Cedric Alexander, who
The
is a law
president has
enforcement
been
officer.
lying about it. He said it again the other day when he said black males are 2 times more likely to be shot by a law enforcement officer than white males. Don, that is a lie.
That is not a lie.
It is a lie.
It's not a lie. Based on per capita, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. If you do the overall number, yes, whites get unalived more often than blacks when it comes to police officers. But the amount of blacks that get unalived, if you did it per capita, it's astoundingly, there's a problem there. Like, there is a problem there.
Show me.
Research.
Show me.
The research
Show it to me then.
that we have from the Washington Post. That
The Washington
Associated
Post
study,
debunked
there's
that
also
nonsense.
There's also research.
He also said this
Sheriff,
time.
There's also research.
He
from
continues.
A Harvard professor that also showed that black people are treated more aggressively by police officers.
No, you are
And other
wrong in your interpretation of that Harvard study because I read the study. That's not what he said. He said he was surprised to find
that in shootings of the most severe in shootings that he found no evidence that there was a difference. Also, it should be noted that that study was a very small sampling of police departments across the country. Many people did not find it credible, but it is also interesting that in that research he found that blacks were treated differently when it came to aggressive policing, but for the most egregious shootings he found no difference. That's what that study showed.
Well, based on what? Just generally? Or are we talking about high crime areas? Are we talking about police officers being under attack? Because let's go back to...
So he's acceding to the point that in high crime areas, they are more aggressive towards blacks. That's what he's acceding to that point. Regardless of whether you guys think like, oh, well, of course, they're supposed to be more aggressive in high crime areas. It's still a secession to the point that literally that police officers are more aggressive towards blacks. I don't care how you feel about that. That's a secession to the point. Now, okay. I just want to ask the question. We know that poverty is most of the areas where the high crime happens. We understand that poverty, and I don't care if you understand this or not, it is a fact. Poverty is most of the reason for crime, right? Let's say in the white community, where is the crime relegated to? This is a study that I would want anybody to research if they want to, right? Is aggressive policing happening in poor white communities? If it is, then you have a talking point to say that there's no police problem at all. I think there's a police problem, period, because either side being unalived by the police is crazy when we pay taxes for them to defend us. However, though, if you can find in any area where there's a study that shows whites being aggressively policed more in their poverty-stricken areas where most of their crime is relegated to, then you can back me and say there isn't a problem with the police. Then I would secede to it. Then there isn't a problem with policing. Just saying.
Where this whole thing started in Ferguson, Missouri. The lie
With
was
all due
hands up,
respect, you're
don't
lumping
shoot.
a whole bunch of things into one. If we
Okay?
could do one specific
That's
thing
where
and
this
stick to
whole
it,
phony movement
then we'll get to
started.
it.
It started out as hands
You're
up,
talking
don't
about
shoot.
Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Okay. So if you want you would need to speak to someone who is a member of Black Lives Matter about whether they have perpetrated a fraud on the American people. That's up to Black Lives Matter. That's not me. I'm neither a member of Black Lives Matter, I'm neither a supporter or someone who doesn't support them. I simply report on Black Lives Matter.
Do you condemn the anti-police rhetoric coming from this hateful ideology?
Absolutely.
As a journalist sitting here on television, I don't have to condemn anyone, anything. That is something that you can ask other people around the country
I
that is
condemn
their
them
jobs to condemn
just
that.
like I condemn the
Just report
hateful
them.
ideology out of groups like the KKK. All right? I condemn it.
Thank you for being consistent. Thank you for being consistent. That was weird. I didn't expect him to be consistent because he does sound like he's, condemn it. Shut up.
There is no place in American discourse for that sort of vile, vitriolic hate coming out of this ideology. This has fueled and fan the flames of this anger toward the American police officer. There's only one group in America, one time, that truly cares about the lives of black people in these urban ghettos, and it's the American police officer who goes up
out of here, man. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to it.
They're on a daily basis, puts their life on the line to protect who? Black people. So when you say we just want to have a conversation,
let's
have a conversation about the black on black crime, which kills more black
on black crime. Is there white on white crime? I'm curious. Why are we talking about black on black crime when we're talking about policing? But we can go to that if you want to. White on white crime. Who often unalives whites? Other whites. Who often unalives blacks? Blacks.
Black males, which is more of a threat to any black male in the United States than a law enforcement officer.
Sheriff.
I want to know what they want to do about it, though. Like, let's talk about it. Black on black crime, right? So we know that, like, if you study the data, you study that most crime is relegated towards poverty-stricken areas. Those poverty-stricken areas is where most of the black on black crime happens. It doesn't exist. I'm just being real. But the black on black crime happens, right? So if it's relegated to those areas, what do you guys want to do about it to fix it? Either you're going to give a racist answer or you're going to give a socialist answer. So the racist answer would be just throw black people out the country, eliminate black people, whatever you want to say it is, right? That would be the talking point that Charlie Kirk might agree with, maybe. Or we could relegate money to those areas, start getting some things going, get the schools looking better, get more fun, get men in the communities to help out with when it comes to the children, get an organization together that protects against the gangs in the communities. But it all requires money to do that. But you would have to give the money. It would be a form somewhat of reparations. I know y'all gonna be mad at that.
Yes, that's a different conversation. We can walk and chew gum at the same time.
We definitely can.
There's an issue when it comes to violence. Black on black crime, or black, it's crime. White people kill white people, tend to kill white people. Black people tend to kill black people.
Not in the numbers.
That's fine, but that's a different
I don't care who white people are killing.
That is a different conversation than police brutality. And we're not having that conversation right now. Again, I want to be very clear with you. I condemn all violence of any type, just for the record.
Was the situation between Mike Brown and Darren Wilson, was that police brutality?
But we're not talking about Mike
yes
Brown
or no?
and Darren Wilson.
I am.
No, if you're asking me what the Justice Department showed, that it exonerated Officer Darren Wilson, and that the hands up, don't shoot narrative was a false narrative. That has been reported by CNN and by others.
Was another phony report.
What does that have to do with Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
All right, because when you take in
what does that have to do with Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
Rates of involvement in violent crime.
He's combining the two, Don Lennon. Like, you got to kind of keep up with what he's doing. That's what these conservatives do. They go to thousands of talking points and never stay on the point. But he's trying to combine two different ideologies. He's saying that because this happened in Baton Rouge is because of the hands up, don't shoot narrative that happened in Ferguson. However, though, this is what's funny. Ferguson is not the starting point for Black Lives Matter. Martin Luther King is the starting point for Black Lives Matter. The many social justice movements that came prior to him is the starting of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is just the symbol that exists today. But if Martin Luther King would have been alive today, he would have supported Black Lives Matter. Just for all you little conservatives that like to use his talking, like to use him, or if you like to use Malcolm to say that about the liberal, Malcolm would have supported Black Lives Matter. So I don't see the point.
And crime in general, but violent crime, you're going to see that black males are overrepresented. Overrepresented in terms of being involved in violent crime. That's going to mean more arrests. That's going to mean more people going to prison. This stuff has already been debunked.
Sure. That's a different conversation.
Every time you don't have a response to something I say,
it's not that I don't have a response to you, is that we're having two different conversations.
Yeah.
I'm asking the questions here. You're answering the questions by asking questions about some other subject that we're not discussing.
Right.
We're talking about this hateful idea.
All right, now they're just arguing, and clearly Sheriff Clark didn't come there to talk. Is that his name, Sheriff Clark? Sheriff Clark didn't come there to talk about anything specific. So, hey, I don't think he was that much of a coon. Maybe I gotta watch more videos on him, but like he come off like one. He do. But I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna call him that. Like, I respect every black man out here that does what they gotta do to get what they gotta get. You know, you gotta get your money in some way. You know, you gotta use the talking points to get you to success. I could do the same thing. I could do what Larry Elder does. I could do what he does. It's simple. All you gotta keep talking about bad black, bad black, and you'll blow up all the way as far as you want to go. That's probably what he's using. So I also researched this before I came on here just to make sure you guys know this, but according to what I've studied about Sheriff Clark specifically, I haven't watched many videos on him, but I found an article that talked about something that he did in one of his prisons, that he was treating like the blacks in his prisons extremely bad. Just for, you know, shits and giggles, I wanted to put that out there. You can find the article too. It's not slander because you can find the article. Like, there was a massive article about how he was treating people in his prisons. But anyways, I'm just playing. I just didn't. I'm not LGBT at all. But anyways, hey, yo, peace.